When you found that particular home that you want and it's time to make an offer, in my experience working with buyers, the first question I typically get is, what's the lowest you think we can offer? And I get that, right? I understand from a buyer's perspective as well as a seller's perspective. And what do I mean by that is, I know as a buyer, you want to get the best offer you can, get the best bang for your buck, and feel like you came out with a little advantage. And for a seller, I know the most important thing is, what's my bottom line, how much I'm walking away with. So, working with buyers, you have to try to explain that one, the most important piece when writing an offer, when submitting your offer, when getting your offer prepared to present to the seller, is not always the purchase price, right? We have to understand that. And I try to make sure when my buyers I'm working with, whether it's a first time home buyer, person buying their second or third home, right? I try to make sure they understand based on their situation how you should structure that offer. And we use the listing price or the purchase price where we're offering as just that. It's a parameter. It gives us the an idea or a leverage point on how we submit the offer, right? And today I just want to discuss that with people buying their first home. I know all the time we think about finding that home, right? We don't think about what's most important when we find that home, and that's structuring that offer, submitting an offer that's gonna get accepted and gonna ultimately get you into that home. That's the most important piece about finding the right home, right? And the way I try to help buyers, and like I said, the first thing you're gonna hear from a person buying that home, and I get it if you're not haven't bought a home, it's not like buying a car from somebody or any other item from somebody, right? Where your first thought is, hey, they're asking XYZ for it. Can I offer, a lower price? I get that. And it depends on your financial situation, is what I tell people, right? And I know as real estate agents, we don't get all the way in the weeds on somebody's finances. However, when you are trying to structure that perfect offer, or if it's a competitive situation, when you're trying to make sure you're submitting the most competitive offer, you have to kind of know those details, right? So the reason I say it's not all about just what we're offering on a purchase price. Of course, yeah, we can go lower. If they're offering 350 and you want to offer 330, yes, we can do that. However, do we need to ask the seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, for closing costs, right? Do we need for them to pay for us a home warranty, a termite bond, split our attorney fees, title fees, right? There are all kind of nuances and different things when it comes to submitting a perfect offer or the correct offer for not just the buyer situation, also for Mr. and Mrs. Seller situation as well, right? So I just try to educate buyers and people buying that home. Yes, we can offer lower, right? But if we want to make sure we're getting you the maximum amount of closing costs, that may not be our most competitive strategy, right? Because when I do an offer for a client, my goal is to make sure that initial offer is pretty clean and that we can get that one accepted with just minor changes, right? Because I get right, it's a um what am I trying to say? It's a back and forth, right? We know it's a negotiation is what I'm trying to say between the seller and the buyer. So of course the seller, if we don't give the seller all that they want up front, of course the seller's going to counter back, and that's understandable, right? And it's all about finding that right piece, that right sweet spot that works for both the buyer and the seller, and everybody meet in between or meet together, and it works out for both sides. So I just try to educate clients, especially buyer clients, on the importance of not just saying how low can we go, but how can we use that list price, that market price that the seller is asking for to give us the best value, right? So that's a starting point. However, it's not the end be all to just offer a lower price, right? So I just try to make sure all people that's looking to buy homes understand that. And definitely, if you're working with me, I try my best to make sure you understand that. And ultimately, if you say you want to get to the table with bringing the least money possible, of course, it's hard to have both, right? It's hard to go lower on a price. It's also ask the seller to, hey, help me come to the table with as less as possible. We understand that, right? Like the saying go, you can't have your cake sometime and eat it too. And we just have to understand that and make sure as realtors that we explain it to people buying first homes, because most time people don't know. And I get that because I didn't know, right? I didn't know how. I thought about buying a house like anything else you ever bought, right? You negotiate a lower price, or that's your first step and only step. That if you're off asking 400, I'm going to see, can I get it for 370, right? So we just have to make sure we're negotiating in a proper manner for our buyers, and not for our best interest, but making sure that we're getting buyers the best deal that we can get them. And that's what I believe in. So if you're in the McCalla area, I'm Shaitan Archie. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Realty, the Vestavia Market Center. And I have a pleasure of serving clients, especially here in my hometown of McCalla, Alabama, in the Tanny Hill area, anywhere in the surrounding areas of McCalla. I've had the pleasure of the whole Birmingham metro area, right? So I've been blessed to be able to help families throughout that. And West Blockton, Centerville, Vance, all of those locations surrounding Tuscaloosa. Don't let me forget my Tuscaloosa people, right? I still have a major following in Tuscaloosa based on my time. I lived there, right? So anyone in Tuscaloosa, McCalla, in between, like I said, Vance, Birmingham, wherever you're at, Hoover, feel free to reach out to me. And you can find me on all social media platforms. So I'm not hard to find for sure. So if you're looking for a realtor who can articulate the process to you and make sure that we draw out a plan and structure an offer that's perfect for your situation, yeah, feel free to connect with me, and we'll get you to that closing table. That's for sure. I've had great success so far in my second year in the business. It's been a blessing to be able to do the things that we do. And it's not that it's easy. However, it is so gratifying when you can help clients make it to that closing table, I must admit. But yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that people understood that with this video, especially people buying that first home or second home, right? Because I know people buying a second home may have bought 10 plus years ago, right? And don't even remember their agent. And that's cool too. So I just try to make sure I educate people on, yeah, the price point, I get it, is important as a negotiating piece. However, it is not the end all be all when it comes to submitting a great offer and ultimately submitting an offer that the seller's going to accept with maybe a small counter. It's based on what your financial situation is and what do you want to give and take to make that number work for you. So with that being said, that's it for today's video. I have been slipping a little bit on YouTube, but if you see this video on YouTube, just like and subscribe. I mean, I got stuff on my platform from real estate to inspirational to just telling my story. So if you want to follow my journey, feel free to like and subscribe to me here on YouTube. Follow me on my socials, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. It's Shaitan Archie, Realtor, and Keller Realtor with Keller Williams, I think. But if you type in Shaitan Archie, it's not many of me out there for sure here in this Alabama area for sure. So feel free to reach out to me and follow me on all platforms. And if you want to connect with me, you got my info. Just reach out to me.